You know, we all dream about humanity becoming this multi-planet species, right? Building cities on Mars, colonies on the moon. But there's this one huge fundamental hurdle we have to get over, and it all comes down to a single biological puzzle. How do we have babies in space? And this, it's not just about the science. It goes way deeper into ethics, technology, and really what it even means to be human.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into that big, pioneering dream. Then we'll look at some of the first experiments. And let me tell you, the results are pretty wild and all over the place. After that, we'll tackle the two biggest biological barriers head on. Then we get to the really thorny stuff, the human dilemma, the ethics of it all. And finally, we'll talk about, where do we go from here?
Okay, let's just get straight to the point. If we can't have babies off-world, there's no such thing as a permanent settlement. That's it. That's the biological bottom line. I mean, without new generations, any colony we build is basically just a really fancy, really expensive campsite. It's got an expiration date stamped right on it. To really make a go of it, to actually thrive out there, a settlement has to be self-sustaining. And listen, if you think this is all just sci-fi stuff for 100 years from now, think again. This is happening right now. There are companies like Spaceborne United that are actively building the tech for this. And just look at their roadmap. It is wildly ambitious. We're talking about validating mammal conception in space this year, and then just a couple of years later, moving on to human stem cell embryos. The future is coming up fast.
So before we can even think about humans, we have to look at the animals that have paved the way. They're our pioneers. And the results we've gotten from them, well, it's a real mixed bag. We've seen some success, sure, but also some major problems and some stuff that is just flat out weird. So get this, the very first babies ever conceived in space were cockroaches. Yep, you heard that right. Back in 2007, a cockroach they named Nadezhda got pregnant up in orbit. But the crazy part is what happened when her 33 babies were born back here on Earth. They weren't normal. They were bigger, faster, even their shells were a different color. Something about space changed them.
And it's not just cockroaches. The results from other animals are just as confusing. On one hand, you have successes, right? Like back in '94, some Japanese Medaka fish hatched just fine. But then you get these really disturbing results. Tadpoles with huge heads, rat pups with messed up brain development, their sense of balance was completely shot. And the scariest one, several times now when scientists sent mouse embryos to space, they just stopped growing. Complete developmental arrest. It shows you just how dangerous and unpredictable space can be for life at its most fragile stage.
Okay, so what is going on up there? What's causing all these bizarre problems? Well, it really comes down to two main villains in this story. One, the near total lack of gravity. And two, something much more invisible, but just as dangerous, cosmic radiation. Just to put the radiation risk into perspective, check this out. On the International Space Station, and remember, they're still kind of tucked inside Earth's protective magnetic field, astronauts get hit with up to 100 times more radiation than we do down here. Now imagine a trip to Mars, way outside that safety bubble. The danger just skyrockets. So, what are we talking about here? What are these cosmic rays? The best way to think about them is like tiny, invisible bullets. They're atomic nuclei, stripped bare, flying at almost the speed of light. They'll punch right through the metal of a spaceship, right through a human body, and just shred DNA on their way through. Now, imagine what that does to the super delicate, rapidly dividing cells of a brand new embryo. It's a disaster waiting to happen. When you put it side by side, the difference between development on Earth and in space is just night and day. Here on Earth, gravity is this constant pull. It's an anchor telling every cell in a developing body which way is down. It's how we build our sense of balance, our vestibular system. But in space, that signal is gone. It's chaos. Cells can get confused, they might not divide right, the brain's balance center could get totally scrambled. And all this is happening while those cosmic ray bullets are flying around, raising the risk for all sorts of terrible outcomes. Okay, so we've talked about the science, the biology, the dangers, but all of that leads us to something even bigger, an even tougher question. This isn't just a science project. We have to stop and ask ourselves the big one, even if we figure out how to do this. Should we? I want you to really picture this. A kid is born on Mars. They grow up in gravity that's barely a third of what we have here. Their bones, their muscles, their heart, everything about them would be adapted to Mars. So, what happens if they ever wanted to visit Earth? The gravity here could crush them.
They might literally be trapped on Mars for their entire life, a prisoner of their own birthplace. How can we make that decision for another human being? Is that fair?
You know, it makes you think of that classic line from Jurassic Park, right? Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. And that's exactly where we are. It's the perfect way to frame this. It forces us to ask that hard question, are we ready for the responsibility of creating a new kind of human? Someone who might face challenges we can't even imagine and could be cut off from humanity's home forever? And the problems don't stop at biology and ethics. There's some really weird practical legal questions too. Like, what's on this kid's passport? Down here, a lot of countries use right of soil. If you're born there, you're a citizen. But what soil is there in space? The Outer Space Treaty says no one owns it. So the only thing that really makes sense is right of blood, which just means the baby gets the same citizenship as its parents. That's probably how it'll shake out.
So, okay, we've laid out all these massive challenges, scientific, ethical, legal. It's a lot. So what's the path forward? How do we even begin to tackle this?
Look, the only way to do this responsibly is carefully, one step at a time. First things first, we need way more data. We need to do studies with animals that go on for generations to see the long-term effects. At the same time, we need some serious breakthroughs in technology, like much better radiation shields, or maybe even figuring out artificial gravity. But honestly, the most important thing, we have to have these big, difficult conversations about the ethics and the laws right now. We can't let the technology get ahead of our ability to handle it wisely. At the end of the day, this whole thing isn't just another engineering problem to solve. It's a question about our future as a species. It's about what kind of future we want to build. As we finally reach for the stars, we have to ask ourselves, what is our fundamental responsibility to that first generation of kids born out there? What do we owe the first children of the stars?